My goal in this video is to help you walk away with a holistic and realistic approach to the question, how many keywords should I have in a campaign? And also give you some sort of filters so you can better analyze the structure of your ad account. So let's dive into it. I hope I'm not making too many enemies because this is a very hotly debated topic in the Amazon advertising community, and one that I see coming up a lot more in questions in Facebook groups, LinkedIn, YouTube videos. Everybody wants to know, how many keywords should you have in a campaign? And there's some very definite, concrete answers out there. So if you've been listening to the buzz in the Amazon advertising community, you will have heard a little while ago, like, oh, don't put any more than 100 keywords or so. Then people talked about 50, and then 50 became 20, and then 20 became 10, and the latest I've heard is no more than 5 keywords in a campaign. And then there's a lot of people who will build out a single keyword campaign, and there's some software out there that will literally run every single keyword in its own campaign. So the question then becomes, what's the best way to do this? People are very adamant that you should not put any more than X number of keywords in your campaign. So what I'm going to try and do is cut through the noise, hopefully not step on too many toes, because I know some people have specific counts that are working well for them. If it is working very well, roll with it. I'm always a big proponent of, if something is working, continue with it. Don't go and restructure your entire account because you heard somebody had this really cool strategy that should boost everything. If it's working, it's working. Don't mess with it. That being said, when you are setting up an account, how should you be thinking about this? So one thing that I do want to say, and this might seem somewhat controversial, is Amazon does not care. They do not care. The algorithm does not go through and say, oh my gosh, they've got 100 keywords in this campaign, so it's not eligible to serve. That's not how it goes. I know you oftentimes will have keywords inside of campaigns that have little to no impressions. If there's a lot of keywords in a campaign, yes, we do see those scenarios, but it's not because Amazon's looking at that campaign going, oh, you know, if you would have made this a single keyword campaign, I would have given you impression. It's all lumped together. Nope. That's not how the algorithm doesn't care. Amazon doesn't care. Now, what is a factor and why it is beneficial to make things more limited, single keyword, 5 keywords, 10 keywords in a campaign, is for the level of control. So there is validity to having limited keyword sets inside of a campaign because those keywords are super important. And honestly, again, we're going to be trying to approach this realistically, holistically, think about it logically. Let's not get emotionally tied up in, I have to have XYZ number of keywords. So potentially, if you have, say, thousands of keywords inside of a campaign, all those thousands of keywords are pulling from the same ad budget. So if you have your ad budget low, if certain keywords have, say, $1 cost per clicks on them, those are getting clicks, and your budget is, say, set at $10, well, then at $1 cost per click, you're only allowing 10 clicks because you have a $10 budget per day. And so you can imagine how if you're only eligible for 10 clicks because you have $1 CPC, well, those 10 clicks might be spread out across a bunch of keywords, or they might only be isolated to, say, 1 or 2 keywords. It's not an uncommon scenario, but in this case, it has a lot more to do with the budget and your cost per clicks than it really has to do with the number of keywords in the campaigns. Now, sometimes it's good to lump things together if you have a smaller budget, because if you have, say, single keyword campaigns across everything, and say I only had a $10 budget and $1 CPC, well, then I would probably actually have to limit my campaign budgets to $1, which is not particularly realistic because I'm potentially only getting a single click on a multitude of keywords if I spread them out. And even if I had $1 CPC and $1 budget, if I have 100 keywords, that's still potentially $100 a day when I might only be okay with spending $10. So you can see where there's still validity to the strategy of lumping things together. Now, that is not what I would consider a good long-term strategy, and I'm going to go into why that is the case now. Again, I kind of touched on this earlier, but think about it in levels of control and levels of importance. So how I went through how you have a whole bunch of keywords, and a lot of times it is the budget that is limiting what's going on with the account. If we can pull out specific keywords and put them in more limited keyword campaigns, meaning that budget is only going to be delegated to the keywords that are contained within that campaign, you can see why we would be able to have a specific budget for a specific either keyword set, a more limited keyword set, or in the case of a single keyword campaign, we would have budgets for that single keyword. And while this can seem amazing and you would wonder, why in the world would I not want to have every single keyword in the campaign, because the level of control I would have would be astronomical. Yes, that is true, but there's a couple things you want to keep in mind. One is, what can you logically understand when going into the account? I don't care how good your software is. I don't care how good your analytics dashboard is. You are still going to want to, at some level, go into Campaign Manager. Now, I would say we are a very hands-on agency. We manage things very well. We have some phenomenal tools, both custom that we've built as well as tools that we pay for and use at our disposal. We still go into Campaign Manager very often to assess what is going on with the account, what do we have running for current products. You know, there's a wealth of knowledge to be found inside of Campaign Manager. It has the benefit of looking at lifetime, which you cannot get that view in any other tool, unless of course you've signed up with the software and they have been pulling your data from day one, which in most cases is not the case. So the only way you can get that view is inside Campaign Manager. So there was a lot of validity to going into Campaign Manager to look at your data. And that being said, if you have every single keyword in its own campaign and you have, say, thousands of keywords, that is thousands of campaigns. Oftentimes it is very hard as humans to wrap our brains around that much information, and it becomes very, very cluttered. And a lot of times people with these types of accounts, you know, a whole bunch of single keyword campaigns, will log in, look at the dashboard, just feel overwhelmed and immediately log out, and that is helping no one. So what I want you to think of it, again, in levels of importance, you also want to like segment things based on groupings. So for instance, the way we will often set up campaigns is looking at a group of keywords that we've selected. So if you're doing keyword research and you're going and scraping all of the ASINs off of a particular page that are ranking, why not put all of those keywords into its own campaign? And the logic here is that we know where we got these keywords, we know why we got these keywords, we know when we got these keywords, and we also know the strategy around us targeting these keywords. So that makes a logical grouping and a place that makes sense for us to put those into a campaign. Yes, we might end up with hundreds of these, but in this case, it helps us wrap our brains around what's going on, and it also allows us to put a specific budget toward, say, targeting ASINs on a specific search page. Now, what happens if one of those ASINs is something that we would really like to target aggressively? This is one that we've identified as a top competitor. Maybe we know that they're ranked on one of our main keywords that we are trying to rank on, and so it makes sense for us to go after, you know, this keyword aggressively. In that case, it might make sense to pull out that one specific ASIN and target it in its own campaign, so we can give it its own budget. We can maybe be more aggressive with the bids and know that, you know, maybe more aggressive bids on other targets are not going to take away from the budget we have on that one target. In that case, again, it makes sense because we have placed this particular target in a very high priority. So that's kind of the logic there, is how specific do you want to be with this target? How much do you need to aggressively target this particular keyword, and allow that to influence your strategy on how many keywords should I have in this campaign, instead of going through your entire account and just putting an arbitrary number on it, because you will end up with keywords that just the search volume does not warrant the confusion or the amount of effort you have to go to set up campaigns with like really limited keyword sets. So right now you should have a better understanding of how many keywords you should be putting inside of your campaigns. Yes, there's no definite number, but definitely looking at it through the lens of importance will help you make better decisions. And if you want to check out a couple other things that you probably want to have in place before you start scaling things in your account, definitely recommend checking out this video.